Duty is dead and we killed it. Welcome everybody, it's a new day to react to a wonderful documentary. You guys sent me this, a bunch of you sent this. The video is titled The Depressing Decline of Call of Duty. We're gonna get into it. I wanna give you my thoughts on the documentary, and is Call of Duty really dead?
It's not a controversial statement to say that Call of Duty has seen better days.
Okay, pause right there. Has Call of Duty seen better days? Yes, I know a lot of you always comment on my polls and you say, T, the best time of Call of Duty was 2007 to 2012, maybe 13 if you're, you know, feeling frisky and you like Ghosts. So you would be right, but there's been some decent CODs in there in the mix. So, you know, we'll see what he's got to say about that.
Despite being relatively popular, at least, if you categorize its success by sheer numbers, it doesn't seem to be doing that bad. Warzone is fairly popular right now, and it looks like the most recent entry in the franchise, Modern Warfare 3, has been enough to prevent the downward spiral it was caught in with Modern Warfare 2 just last year.
Right off the rip, that's a great point. MW3 definitely saved this franchise for sure. I think now we're just getting into a point where the content is making us feel like our $70 was worth it. But before that, we were still in a little bit of a decline because everybody was like, nah, MW2 sucked. MW3 is a $70 DLC. So we're just starting to get on that little uptick. So MW2 was not a good year.
But why did it ever end up on the ropes to begin with? Well, aside from the infernal attachment to our mortal coils and the finality of the passage of time, which is a roundabout way of saying things get old and less popular, the game is probably the most polarizing first-person shooter on the market right now. On one hand, everybody who plays first-person shooter games has probably played it at some point, and probably really enjoyed playing it too, but then Call of Duty kind of stopped being cool. At least, unless you were really into its esports scene.
Wait. Call of Duty hasn't stopped being cool. Come on now. No, that's a really good point. I mean, I feel like the comments I get, if it's a hater or somebody, even somebody that played COD in the past, they're always like, you still play this dead game? I'm like, bro, the game's selling millions and millions and billions of dollars. People still play this game all the time. Right now, it is not cool to play COD. During the pandemic and 2020 with MW19 and Cold War, it was cool to play COD. So these things go through cycles, I feel like, but
then that's still a relatively niche esports scene. How did Call of Duty go from universally loved?
Speaking of esports, shout out Boston Breach.
Hated?
Go make sure you follow Boston Breach. That's my squad. The decline of
we just uploaded a video about Helldivers
intro.
2 and feel like that game's ability to commit to a certain creative vision and stick to it was hugely instrumental in its success. But that game had a relatively small team and a relatively small budget compared to the Call of Duty studios and of course Activision Blizzard. Hopefully this video provides a cautionary tale of the Icarus of first-person shooters, a franchise that soared to great heights, but ultimately got too close to the sun. This is the story of Call of Duty's decline.
That's a banger
Call of
intro.
Duty was unique in the sense that it was able to take multiplayer arcade FPS mechanics and sell them at a widespread scale everybody could get behind. The game was well regarded.
Isn't it wild that Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 1 are still the most sold copies of all time? I don't know why that shocks me when I go and look at the top sold CODs. I'm like, oh, it's probably a newer one, or like maybe one that was in the relatively, you know, past, like Cold War or MW19. I know MW19 is up there, but it still shocks me. I guess there's more content out there to consume. There's more free games, so people don't buy COD as much. I don't know. You have to let me know what you think about that.
For its immersive storytelling, its single-player component. What a lot of people don't know about this franchise is that it, at one point, tried to make a play for cinematic immersion, with famous depictions of events like the Battle of Stalingrad, wherein the player had to pick up a rifle off of the ground of a fallen soldier, armed only with a clip of ammunition in their hand. The games also featured the Normandy invasion, with the vicious rain of MG42 fire from entrenched positions right in front of you. It actually wasn't until Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare when it took
Quick side
decisive
note. Pause. We played COD 1 and 2 on our channel and streamed it if you want to go back and watch. They are still fun today. Yes, the graphics are not very good, but gameplay mechanically, it still kind of feels like Call of Duty. If you have the ability to play those, they feel like team games. They're really fun. I missed them when I played. It was great.
Setting difference. Putting you in the shoes of a thrilling action movie ride, incorporating political gambles from Middle Eastern warlords to Eastern Bloc
COD
crime
4, man, started it all.
Depth and scope from the sound effects to the environments and the voice acting all played a role in making creative, interactive narratives.
Right. What the hell kind of name is Soap, eh? How a muppet like you pass selection?
And this is sort of where the culture of the game
It's
solidified.
so amazing.
It solidified itself with a pretty robust single-player level design theory showcase.
If you did not experience dropping in on this mission back when it came out in 2007, you don't know what you missed. Getting this game back then, you are just... Now it's an everyday occurrence. You see this everywhere. But back then, you didn't see a blockbuster movie, explosions everywhere on a video game, I feel like. And maybe not in the first-person shooter, at least. And
Theory
this...
showcase. Call of Duty
It
4
brought it.
was well known for a couple of missions, one of which put you in the hands
this.
of the
Can he
guns
get
on a
there?
titanically destructive
Yes, he can!
AC-130 gunship. The distance from the
Ugh.
carnage and the laws of physics taken into account. The time it takes for the shells to
100%
reach their target while you
blew
wait.
my own team up doing that
Silently,
probably
you see
20 times.
explosions, gunfire, and the casual nature of the crew members as they command something that seems akin to an ominous dragon just looming above in the sky.
Wolf, are we going to commandeer civilian transport on the main highway? Cover us.
Ground units are requiring all
Such a good campaign, guys. We played this on our stream,
That
too.
guy's pissed.
So fun still. I mean, we're talking close to 20 years old now, these games.
You also had a mission that featured crawling on your stomach
Oh.
behind enemy lines in a ghillie suit to stop an illegal arms deal between bitter actors on behalf of the Soviet Union's old, quite literal, fallout. It was not irrelevant in popularizing the radioactive mythos of the Ukrainian city of Pripyat to an entire generation of young men and boys. Pripyat, an almost supernaturally eerie feeling ghost town that acts as a sort of time capsule into the Soviet culture of the 80s. Just Captain McMillan, your lead on this op, ended up becoming a notable character in just one mission out of the entire game.
I cannot tell you how amazing this mission is. I know you're looking at me right now and you're like, this dude's like emotional over a Call of Duty campaign mission. No, you don't get it. This is one of the greatest Call of Duty missions of all time. It's not even close. It's just iconic. It just, this game brought so much to the table.
Stay warm. He's mine.
Oi, Susie.
That's how it's done.
The sequel offered dramatic visuals like the White House aflame from Russian
Yes.
invasion. Call of Duty Black Ops would trek
Oh.
around the globe, evoking the mood of old school Cold War spy thrillers, even taking nods from a previous installment in the timeline that took a crack at World War II once more. Unique that time around for offering a focus on the Pacific Front, as US Marines are face to face with Japanese soldiers running straight towards you from a concealed jungle
Banger
landscape.
campaign.
The sweltering heat gleaming through dense, thick tree lines, screaming in rage with bayonets attached to their rifles. Then the next
This campaign as well, too. World at War, just going to say it, most underrated campaign of all time. Underrated game and underrated campaign.
minute, you would be sniping and scurrying your way through
Another
war-torn
banger mission.
Stalingrad again, with a Soviet sergeant played by none other than Gary Oldman, who would go on to win an Academy Award for his portrayal of Winston Churchill in the film Darkest Hour.
He's also missing in a very important detail. That's Commissioner Gordon from Dark Knight. So if you've seen that movie and Batman Begins and all that, it felt like they used voice actors back then that just really, you know, they were some big names. It's kind of crazy.
For 3 days, luck alone has saved his wretched life.
My name is Victor Lesnar. And I will have
Come on.
my revenge.
You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
Over
Gary,
time,
shout out Gary
Call of
Oldman.
Duty developed a shared and loved culture and cast of characters. But you came for the campaign and stayed for the multiplayer. While one of these things was what made Call of Duty a cultural staple, the other was what made it an exercise in multiplayer FPS design. Call of Duty was responsible for create a class, and that longevity
Oh.
has ramifications throughout the industry to this day. Just about any shooter game made
Do you remember when creative, like, it's so wild to me that Call of Duty didn't have creative class at one point, and the first CODs were just like sniper, SMG, AR, and then like COD 4 comes in, gives you full reign on everything, pick whatever you want, grenade, attachments, get camos, all this was
in
just all in
2024
COD 4.
will have some kind of modularity involved in
Yep.
terms of what stuff you want to bring into the battlefield. But Create a Class has almost created an
By the way,
FPS
guys, I did
ocean
play
that we've been swimming in
Helldivers
for
recently,
many years.
and I liked it.
And we're more
It's
or
fun.
less fish who've forgotten we're in water. Call of Duty was a victim of its own success in some ways. It developed a framework for which many FPS games were built on, but it couldn't really tack one way or the other without a huge amount of pushback. It was a fish that could grow wings, but couldn't breathe air.
Chapter 2, baby.
Call of Duty was responsible for innovating arcade multiplayer FPS. Quick time to kill, fast-paced movement, and personalization was the name of the game.
Hey,
But the game
hey, this is a guy that has created multiple videos on his account of all sorts of games. And you know what he said Call of Duty was? A quick twitch, fast action, just an overall high-speed game. Why did MW2 completely put that on its head and throw that entire thing out the window? Infinity Ward, what in the world were you thinking? What are you doing?
certainly looks, feels, and plays very differently now to then. Obviously, we can have a full separate conversation about the artistic side of things, and that will certainly be elaborated on.
Dude, this, I don't
But
even
before
remember
we do that,
seeing
it's
this.
important to
This
contextualize
ad?
that this was still
It's a
FPS game
banger ad.
design in its childhood. Not quite its infancy, but we were still kind of coming to grips with what we could make an FPS game do at scale and at mass market. The point is, the game had large scale and breadth in terms of the sandbox and space it constructed. What it had a harder time figuring out was the nuts and bolts. The game went through tons of different iterations with Create a Class, and that's usually what made it distinct among each individual title. And from game to game, each Call of Duty sort of had a unique identity due to this.
That's so spot on. I mean, with Call of Duty now, I mean, we've even talked about it in the podcast, the Going Dark podcast, which I'm going to plug real quick. It's Going Dark YouTube. I feel like Call of Duty in the last couple years, like the last 2 or 3 years, feels like the same game. When you went back and went to COD 4, World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, they all felt like different games because they were made by different studios. And now it's like this big jumbled mess of multiple studios. MW2 feels like MW3. Like there's no difference in layout. There's no difference in create a class. There's no difference in UI, the menu. Everything looks the same. So it's like, it feels like we've been playing the same game for 2 years, even though it is a little bit different with the movement and stuff. But there needs to be identity again.
But at a certain point, a new game coming out every year started to get a little bit old. At a certain point, you needed to do new things. One example they tried to do was lean more into the movement. This is where the subgenre of so-called movement shooters began to emerge. Now, Call of Duty was not responsible.
Hey, let me give you a quick side note here, guys. I like the Jetpack era. What are you gonna do? I mean, you might dislike the video because I said that, so, but please don't do that. I loved it. Jetpack era, sign me up. Give me one every 3 years. You know, let's meet in the middle. Let's meet in the middle and keep it Black Ops 3 moving.
For the genesis of movement shooters. That had been happening in the background for a while. But Call of Duty was so big that it couldn't just ignore this part of the FPS space anymore. However, the game's grappling with this topic did a lot of damage to the brand, because it had a hard time trying to find the right way to do it before they finally just gave up. Call of Duty runs on a yearly release cycle. To offload the labor intensity and make sure there's a reasonable timeline of development, different development companies were allocated to individual titles.
Yes.
Another element was introduced to the Call of Duty carousel with the release of Advanced Warfare in 2014, developed by a third player, Sledgehammer Games. The only point at which the public was familiar with Sledgehammer was their involvement with the production of Modern Warfare 3 alongside Infinity Ward. Advanced Warfare was Sledgehammer's first solo project and a concerted, deliberate effort to lean into the game's potential as a movement shooter.
Okay, so this is spot on information. I love this video so far. For me with Sledgehammer, it's so tough for me because I feel like they get a bad rap because of, you know, World War II's track record, Advanced Warfare, Vanguard, even Modern Warfare 3. And it feels like they're always the studio that's like cleaning up or trying something completely new. Like World War II, they wanted to do Advanced Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 3, they wanted to do Advanced Warfare 2. And they have always been handcuffed to make whatever game Activision wanted to make. It felt like in Advanced Warfare, regardless of what you think of that game, they were trying to do something new. And I think that's very important to note. We're so stuck on give us COD. We think we know what COD is, but it's like if we try something new, we always rip it. So we got to figure out, we got to let these guys give us a little something new every time.
In fact, it would be massive for demarcating a hugely controversial Rubicon.
Dude, I
The
love Advanced
exoskeleton
Warfare.
in Advanced Warfare brings a ton to the table. You got speed and strength and verticality.
This guy's
new
now
movement
gone,
sets
too.
like
Condry?
boost and dodge and slam. The ability to use technology.
And this
like
was
the
during the
augmented
time
reality
of
system and the mag
Titanfall.
gloves
So
for new
COD
ways
was
to
starting to
climb.
do
I
like
mean,
this
it
catch-up
really,
game.
we
They
call
were
it the
trying
heart and
to
soul of the advanced soldier.
mimic, but
and everything it brings is really a pretty radical new way to play Call of Duty.
reinvent a
The
little bit.
Jetpack COD era.
Come on.
Now here's the thing. The Jetpack shooter era didn't start here.
Come on.
Because Titanfall had just released earlier in the spring.
Yep.
Titanfall was unique in the offering of a new spin on the arcade shooter formula, this time throwing in high-speed jetpacking, wall running, and fast-paced gunplay. What savvy people are surely thinking of is the lineage of Titanfall. It is shared in Call of Duty, developed by Respawn, its genesis enshrined by former Call of Duty devs. Now,
Did you guys play Titanfall? Because to me, I liked the game. You're going to roast me, but I liked Titanfall mechanics. I liked the gunplay. I liked everything about it. I didn't like the Titans. Like, I wanted to just fight another person, and it was like 6v6, but I feel like the game wasn't designed around that. I know they added it later on, but it was like the game was designed for Titans. So it was like, it's like playing Advanced Warfare without the jetpacks. It's like, well, the game's not really meant for this, you know?
Advanced Warfare featured the exosuit. It was designed to wink and nudge in the direction of popular sci-fi movies and TV at the time.
From Elysium to Oblivion to
I
Edge of
forgot about
Tomorrow,
these
the
movies.
opening kick of the World Cup this year was a paraplegic wearing an exoskeleton. I mean, it's really a remarkable invention of technology today, and as the cornerstone to Call of Duty, it's given us a ton of potential.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea that that was what that was based off of. I may be an idiot, but I did not know that.
So when you think of a jetpack in a video game, what do you usually think of? The first time I played with a jetpack in a shooter game was Star Wars Battlefront. No, not this
Yeah,
one.
give-
Go back a little bit more.
Give me the
sister.
OG one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Dark Trooper
There
basically
we
got
go.
launched way up into the air really quickly, which was really useful for traversal. You could get up to high elevation
Boba
or
Fett,
go across
you could
chasms
hover.
in a way that other characters couldn't. But your mobility advantage was offset by only being able to fight
this
at
is the-
close
this is the
range with a
first Battlefront.
shotgun. This is not like the last jetpack COD in the series, Black Ops 3, which was much more floaty, kind of like a dragonfly hovering around. This
See, I feel like Black Ops 3 is the game where you look at it and you're like, this is how it should have been done from the first game to the last game. I think the jetpack era is completely looked at different if it's more like Black Ops 3.
movement is deliberate, punchy. It has weight to it. There are stakes for making
See, I
the
don't
wrong
really like-
movement tech
I
at the
don't
wrong
like
time.
that.
Momentum is involved.
I don't
and
really
that's
like that.
Essentially what Advanced Warfare was too. You can jump up, then go to the side, or go down
Give him
for
a
a little
slam.
slam.
Give him a slam.
little
There you
slide.
go.
Slide to the left. And it looks simple, but when you
look at
watch the
this.
movement lobbies of Advanced Warfare that are apparently still around in 2024, you'll find that there's still a community that plays the game to this day because they just vibe with the
Bro, you cannot tell me that you watch that right there and not absolutely love looking at that. Like, to me, that's like having a pizza. It's just like great. You know it's gonna be good. You love watching it. You love eating it. That made no sense. But it just, when I watch Advanced Warfare movement, it's
We
gorgeous.
ran a poll on the couch to see what you guys felt. And it seems to be the consensus that Black Ops 3 was the most
Yeah.
beloved jetpack COD.
I agree with
Probably
that.
to nobody's surprise, Infinity Ward's entry the year after did not rank very high at all. Still boasting one of the worst like to dislike ratios in YouTube video history with its launch trailer. This 3-year stint of movement COD probably set the groundwork for more frustrating decisions later down the line, as the developers had a tough time trying to ascertain what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Well, I can tell you what didn't work. Announcing Infinite Warfare. If you remember back, the most dislikes, I think, in gaming trailer history. So we were tired of jetpacks. I remember I was tired of jetpacks. We needed a change, but I think this is where the 1 every 3 years comes in. It's like, give us a jetpack 1 every 3.
For 2019 leaned heavily into
Sledgehammer
a very
do it.
particular kind of vibe. A vibe that emphasized raw, gritty,
They're coming home.
operator, tactical sorts of stuff.
Yep.
The game got a fresh new paint job with a new engine, and in particular, much more cinematic presentation. Reloading animations were poppy, snappy, you could feel every click, clack, patty whack with camera shakes. It was in your face and very upfront about what it was. A return to form. It was also, more importantly than anything else, not a jetpack COD, which meant that the movement was slower.
Was it though?
Sorry, hold. Something's. Which meant that the movement was slower.
Yeah, you might want to take that back, buddy. Oh,
I'm
look
not
how
mad.
pretty that
I
is,
don't know what's
dude.
happening. Which meant that
Movement
how
is
pretty.
incredibly important in this game if you want to be a good player.
to be completely transparent, the person creating this video is not knocking any of the content creators that were just referenced. But it shows an example of how art style doesn't translate to gameplay mechanics, especially when you're trying to get away from a jetpack kind of sci-fi setting. These guys
see the why-ing and all that stuff. I understand why people don't like that, but the ability to outplay your opponent is something that just gives us a skill gap. And I think that's very, very important. Now, Advanced Warfare, skill gap was here. It was way wide. Modern Warfare 19, it brought it in. And then as people learned how to slide cancel and go move around all that, it got wider as well. I don't know why I'm going in. It went wider. So I think that's important. For me to play a video game, I need to feel like I'm getting better. Maybe you guys are thinking it's based on Modern Warfare 2 posting up and like you don't move much, because I know people say that these old CODs didn't have movement. Go back and watch Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1. You can lay down in a millisecond. You can lay down in a millisecond. You can jump, lay down, and drop shot somebody quicker than you can do it in today's games. So I think the argument for like movement is not a good one.
have jetpacks. Of course they'll slide around. These guys don't. Who played these kinds of games?
I miss this
Everybody.
game so much.
Your dad,
man.
your uncle, the manager, your gym, every dude played Call of Duty. And then dudes kind of stopped playing it.
Well, come on, man. It's Vanguard. It's not our fault.
Gaming in general became a much more mainstream hobby.
So,
But
okay.
the only kinds of people who
Pause right there. The problem with showing Black Ops 4 and World War II numbers, these both were decent games. We always forget there was a brand new genre. There was a brand new game that completely took over everything, and that was Fortnite. If you didn't play it, you knew about it. Your friends played it. Your brother played it. Your uncle played it. So you could show any game in any genre, and their sales would be lower. I guarantee you. During the Fortnite era, I would be willing to make a bet on that, about maybe $1.
play COD are probably just really dedicated FPS nerds. It's popular, yeah, but it's not really popular in the same way it used to be. Now there's a time investment, kind of like 40K. People want to be good at the video game, and they want to feel rewarded when they make a good play. The greatest
Like I said.
twist of irony then was how Call of Duty tried to establish itself in this new shift. By putting a certain coat of paint on the game, a certain kind of art style, but still making it very clear, this is a video game, not real life. And remember, single player campaigns used to be a pretty important component of the experience. The culture was, you played the single player, you had fun, then the multiplayer was the side product that sustained itself over time. You'd throw out some map packs
Yeah.
for a little more dough, and then on to the next one.
Yeah.
But Call of Duty, despite changing up the mechanics a little, the basic gameplay loop, domination, search, etc., create a class. That was still the same. MLG trickshotters and hypersweats were a thing back in the day, but it wasn't really cool yet. It was just kind of a thing some kids did if they were really into it. Now, everybody consumes content online, and what looks cool in a YouTube video is what people are gonna try and emulate. So we started dropping terms like slide canceling. What
Hey,
the
it's T
heck
Captain
is
X.
a slide cancel?
Yo, how do I slide cancel in this game?
Well, there's no difference between this and drop shot. Like, who introduced the first drop shot? Who introduced the first, like, peek and pop? And who introduced the trick? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I feel like the game evolved. You know, when things evolve, things change, things grow, you know, things are different. Things aren't the same as they were in 2007. So the slide canceling argument just doesn't click with me for some reason.
Can you slide cancel in this? I don't even know.
Nah, you can't slide cancel in this one.
A slide cancel is exactly what it sounds like. You go into the slide animation, then quickly reset it so you can get your gun up and shoot. In the context of a shooter game, a fun little mix-up to throw your opponent's aim off. Now, when we talk about
I also will say this, sorry to interrupt again, but I would be okay with getting rid of this mechanic, going back to Black Ops 2 where there was no automatic tac sprint. I'm down for this, but I also don't mind this as well. You know, I don't mind current COD, and I wouldn't mind, I mean, I go back and play old CODs all the time. I don't mind them either. Give me a fun game at this point, you know, that's where I'm at.
the stuff, we don't sound like we're talking about a shooter game anymore. When I think of shooter game, I think of skulking around in a bush, my positioning, my relation to the opponent, my aim, shoot, and then the kill, bada bing, bada boom. Now I gotta do this and this at the same time. I gotta shoot and move.
I mean, it's a skill gap.
Sports sweats are ruining my fun. The biggest component of the disconnect for the series started here. Because on one hand, you had a kick it and relax kind of gamer on the couch, Call of Duty the every guy shooter. For, let's face it, people who didn't play shooter games all the time. It was supposed to be the one shooter game everybody had. Then the shooter game nerd, who's played everything, Titanfall, Battlefield, Halo, Gears of War, Rainbow Six, who knows what else, comes into the fray, and then suddenly you get this casual versus esports war. And this is happening across the entire industry.
I was just gonna say, I didn't want to interrupt him, but I was like, isn't that happening everywhere? I mean, Fortnite, there's a dude that can build 2 walls, and there's a guy that goes like this, builds it all the way up to the heavens, and you're like, now what? And I guess this is the introduction of skill-based matchmaking. I guess that's where it comes from.
Spent 3 years trying not to make the game too inaccessible with advanced movement.
Please don't show me MW2
where
clips.
The most involved player could slip and slide all over the place and make this look a lot more like this. The immersion was broken, and we sat there, growing up, during the Call of Duty beta overnight. Our childlike fascination with the virtual world, gone. Manipulated and twisted, so that you could slide and not slide. Look what you did.
Well, nearly every industry took a financial hit this past year. The gaming world saw massive growth.
NPD reports it.
I want to know if you stopped playing Call of Duty and are watching my content, because some of you do not play Call of Duty anymore. You just watch my stuff. Is the reason you quit COD slide canceling? Like, is that the main reason? Is it jetpacks? What is it?
33% increase in overall spending.
But Warzone in 2019 was what set the stage for Call of Duty's popular fame moving forward. We had Call of Duty Vanguard. Oh, sorry. Black Ops Cold War does something a little different. Hey, let's have the new style of COD, but let's make the time to kill just a little bit longer, like it was way back in the day. So instead of 3 bullets, it's more like 4 or 5. Tracking the target means you gotta have better accuracy and follow through throughout the course of the engagement. Which means that if somebody can do the cool little slip and slide, there's a little more dueling. There's a little bit more combat that feels back and forth.
That's how it should be. That's the only problem with MW19. The time to kill was so quick. So people that couldn't keep up with the slide canceling also got killed in 2 bullets. And it's never a good combination. Cold War felt like you could take a couple more bullets. Same with Black Ops 4. Pretty much Treyarch games in general. And it feels like there's more fair fights, in my opinion.
And then Modern Warfare 2 comes out again and slows everything down super slow. Basically, Call of Duty if it was Tarkov. Tarkov Duty.
Amen.
Fast time to kill. Slower, deliberate movement. Ish. And then it almost kills the franchise. Round and round it goes. Where COD goes, nobody knows. Call of Duty was so big that it couldn't become anything specific. And it did the cardinal sin of AAA gaming. Trying to please everyone and pleasing no one.
No one.
One talking.
That's a great, I mean, it's such a good point. I'm glad he's bringing this stuff up, because all the people that go, oh, we don't want movement. Okay, well, they gave you Modern Warfare 2 and look what happened. The franchise almost died. I mean, that's how bad it was. I mean, even Vanguard feel like it didn't get that low. I don't know anybody that played Modern Warfare 2 for the entire year. I don't know one person.
Point that permeates extensively throughout the industry is just how multiplayer games look. Whether people like it or not, Fortnite made everybody fall in line with the world of multiplayer microtransactions.
Yep.
And if you can cut a deal with a corporation to represent Warhammer 40K, you're gonna do it. But Fortnite didn't really have a particularly specific art theme direction. Call of Duty did.
The Fortnite does. It's cartoony. It's for 10-year-olds, but I mean, I still enjoyed it back in the 2017 era, seasons 1 and 2, but I feel like you knew it was cartoony. You know, when they introduce stuff, you're like, all right, that fits in Fortnite. When I see Nicki Minaj running around Call of Duty, I go, we got a disconnect here.
Multiplayer matches of Call of Duty were pretty simply laid out. Here's a map.
So clean.
What are the 2 appropriate factions here? It's the Russians versus the Germans.
Yes.
Each faction even had a unique track that would play before you rolled into battle, and unique uniforms to each of those factions.
Capture the objectives.
Oh, I
Nowadays,
1,000,000% agree.
May play up the cinematic vibe a little bit. It does so in the single player campaigns, but it tends to be this way only at the beginning of the new release.
Oh no.
As the game ages, people buy the new anime skin.
Yes.
The new esports skin. and all sorts of flashy and shiny colors, shiny, colorful bullets, assassination animations, entire cosmetic kits that are designed around a certain design theme. It's not to say that they're not creative. They certainly are. One creative nod to FPS gaming history features the game's double-barrel shotgun, operated and animated like the one from the classic 90s FPS game Doom.
Let's be
Complete
honest.
with the sounds, jerky frame rate, animations, and everything else in between. But most of the skins usually just consist of taking XYZ gun and making it pink or blue or red or based off a famous superhero or something. Cosmetics have taken...
But how do we fix that though? Because they have the stats. They're selling like crazy. People are buying it. They're not going to stop doing it. They're not going to add a Captain Price skin with Arctic camo. You know, like it's not going to work anymore. I don't know what you do. Do you turn a setting on that makes people have generic characters? You know what I mean? Like a paintball mode from GoldenEye, if you know that way back, you could turn on paintball mode because if you didn't want to have blood, maybe that's a solution.
A decidedly strong seat in front of the vibe. The tactical... Oscar Mike, over and out vibe. It doesn't affect gameplay. It just
feels what a map, man.
Weird. And that weird disconnected feeling is just kind of icky. That's all there is to it. There's no particularly empirical metric about it. Something's just kind of off. It feels like the identity, the heart of the game just isn't really there anymore. And sure, the game is fun. If you really, really do like the gameplay, it's bizarre to consider how we got here in the first place. Modern Warfare 3 doubled down on the demand for faster pace, flashy movement, and longer time to kill after the series spent several years deciding whether or not it wanted flashy movement. Modern Warfare 3 ended up releasing on a 1.5-year long turnaround. So it begs a better question.
And Charlie Intel just tweeted recently a Call of Duty Twitter account that the numbers are higher than they were in MW2. A lot higher. So is this what people want nowadays?
How come Activision Blizzard was so disconnected from the ground game of its production? Call of Duty is a massive license, and as many problems show in terms of size attribution of games, if the game is too big, you can end up with too many cooks in the kitchen, and a lack of a clear vision, and lack of a creative approach. Comparatively, Helldivers 2 is killing just about every shooter game on the market, at least for now, with a modest dev team for a $40 release.
Simple.
And the Finals, a relatively new free-to-play game, has attracted a modest
I need to play this game
for a fraction of the development costs of your typical blockbuster Call of Duty game. It seems that nowadays, Call of Duty is a lot like Marvel movies. There were some beloved Marvel movies, and some of the ones in the formula later on down the road still did really well and were universally praised and respected. Cultural staples. But when's the last time you've heard someone talk about a Marvel license recently? Dune Part 2...
I gotta be honest with you, that's a fantastic point. I can't think of the last one besides the Avengers Endgame and the one before that, Infinity War, that you really were talking about. It's got the same kind of lineup. It's like, it's been like 4 years of Marvel that's just junk. I'm sorry. I'm a Star Wars guy.
Was made with a little under $200 million with a smaller budget than Ant-Man and the Wasp. Call of Duty represents more than just aspects of the gaming industry that need critical attention. That's a mid-movie right there. It represents just what not to do to remain sustainable in the entertainment industry. It's emblematic of what happens when talented, passionate devs are stuck at the beck and call of a large conglomerate decision-making process that is disconnected from what's going on inside the building, what's happening in the day-to-day.
I miss you.
Is it possible for Call of Duty to get back to where it sort of was? Is it possible for that passion to return? We're just gonna have to wait and see.
Forward area clear.
I don't know if it's possible. I pray that it is, because we all love Call of Duty the same amount, I feel like, on this channel. I don't know. I don't know. I hope it does. I hope we can find that Modern Warfare 19. Regardless of what you think about Modern Warfare 19, it put everything COD back on the map again. Every streamer was playing it, and Warzone, and it just felt like COD was in a good state, even though there was hackers everywhere. That, don't get me wrong, I get it. But it just felt like there was finally some positive talk about Call of Duty for the first time in like 5 years, it felt like. So I'm hoping with the new Gulf War, we do have some sort of turnaround. Give me some positive talk again. I think this is the end of the video. Yeah. Yep. Man, 2007. Unbelievable. This video was absolutely fantastic, guys. It is the Couch Co-op channel. Absolutely unbelievable video. I totally agree with what they're saying. I do think COD needs to do something. Will they do it? I doubt it. But if you guys enjoyed this reaction content, I want to make sure my reaction content isn't cringe. I want to be able to add my personal opinion onto these videos, into these documentaries, and not just go, oh, that's funny, that's hilarious, and then just move on and just mindlessly watch something. I want to give feedback. So yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Let me know another video that you want me to react to. I am down to do this. I want to do it more often. More documentaries are coming in the future, more shorts. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new as well. We'll see you in the next one.